Hello, it has been a while, good people of the internet. Today I'm going to speak on a subject that has been requested many times. I haven't spoken on it too much. I've written about it some on my blog. I'll post the link later on, and you can go read some there. Today I'm just rolling through Miami Beach and thinking about subject matter to put on this channel to help more people. And again, the question that gets asked a lot of times, especially when I'm out playing music nowadays, is how did you quit drinking? So I finally took my last drink in 2014, May 12th, 2014. Before that, I had many attempts, starting as early as, I believe, 2007, at stopping drinking. And I made it 6 months a couple of times. I made it 3 days a couple of times. I made it 3 hours a couple of times. I made it 3 weeks a couple of times. The biggest thing for me that helped me finally stop was realizing that I was going to lose some really important stuff in my life, and it was because of my habits. And I knew that I needed to make a total and final change at that point. But before that, it was more linked to, I want to feel better, I want to look better, I hate having hangovers, all that kind of surface level stuff, the vanity stuff. But I was also in the habit of making an ass of myself. And, short pause, there's a lady in a stroller. There is not a child in the stroller, there's a small dog in the stroller. Miami Beach life. Yeah. Anyways, I didn't want to feel hungover. I didn't want to feel beat up. I wanted to perform better. But it wasn't ever like, man, I need a fundamental change. And for me, I was always a binge drinker. It would come and go. I would have weeks where I would drink 2 or 3 days a week, but get absolutely hammered. I would have weeks where I wouldn't drink at all. And then I would have weeks where I was DJing in clubs a lot, and I would drink 5 or 6 nights a week. And the booze was unlimited, and I could have whatever I wanted, and it would just take over and take control. Those booze habits would lead to worse food habits, would lead to less exercise. Yeah, you know how it goes. What finally broke the camel's back, to be real candid, was when my wife finally said, this is it. I cannot live with this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. I don't want this to be around me. I don't want this to be around our family. And it was a huge wake-up call for me. And she was absolutely 100% right, because I would drink until I was blacked out. I didn't know when to stop. I couldn't have 2 or 3 drinks and have a nice buzz and call it a night. 2 or 3 would always lead to 4, 6, 10, 20. And I would always kind of keep pushing that line. And sometimes I would be real fun and funny in the life of the party, and other times I would be belligerent. Sometimes I would be both. Sometimes when I'd be playing music, I would be funny and belligerent, and I would be surrounded by yes men. And I would be in a situation where I was getting paid to be in that environment. So you can kind of see how that was toxic, right? So for me, it was this thing where I wasn't paying for booze, so there was never this thing where it was like, I have to stop, it's costing me so much money. Like, it was being given to me everywhere that I went, and whatever I wanted was being given to me. On my rider for a long time, I had a bottle of whiskey and a case of beer, and that would get taken down in a night, and I would go to the next place and it would get taken down again. So eventually it got to the point where I had to look at myself in the mirror and realize that I had a real fucking problem, because what I was doing, I was running fitness competitions, I was running gyms, And I was really fit and I took care of myself a lot, but then I would get hammered on the weekends. And I even folded it into the culture of the gyms that I own, where we'd have weekend barbecues and everybody would drink and get, but haha, it's all part of the culture. A beer every quarter month, so yeah, we're doing it for fitness. It's all laughs. Until it wasn't. I was hosting fitness competitions and I would chug beers at 7:30 in the morning. I made it normal to have a beer on the exercise floor while I was hosting an exercise competition in the middle of the afternoon. No one ever called me on it. It was just, oh, that's Dan being Dan. It's part of it. I was emceeing and hosting and making sure the judges knew what they needed to do and everything was getting taken care of. Meanwhile, I'm 6 or 8 beers deep in the middle of a fit. So, like I said, I was drinking heavily, drinking to blackout. And eventually I looked myself in the mirror and realized I really had to make a change. I was going to lose a lot of important shit. And it was a change that I had tried many times before, but it was always so damn scary. How do I do this? I was still involved in the music business pretty heavily. I was still DJing in South Beach nightclubs. I was still going to Europe and still flying around to other places. And for me, it might not seem like it, but I am pretty introverted. I know how to turn the extrovert switch on, but a lot of times I would turn that on with booze. It was a real easy shortcut for me to turn on that extrovert switch and have social conversations in different cities with different people all of the time. Eventually I decided, hey, I need to fix this for good. I know that I've had a couple of 6 and 9 month runs. I know that I can push that boundary, but I need to get to a year. And at that point, it seemed impossible to me. So I talked to a couple of friends who had been clean for many years, and they both said the same thing. Go to a meeting. If you want help finding a meeting, I'll help you find a meeting. I'll go with you. One thing they never said to me was, I will help you. Beyond, I'll get you to a meeting. And that was one of the best things they could have done for me, because I'm glad that they let me find my own path and let me take the bull by the horns and figure it out. And I believe that was one of the biggest helps they could have done. So eventually I went to a meeting, and I've written about this in the past, but Miami is a pretty small town, even though there's millions of people here. People tend to stay in the same pockets, and I remember being very afraid that I was going to walk into the meeting and I was going to see somebody that I knew, see a gym client, see somebody from the nightlife scene that I knew. More than I was really worried about the gym thing more than anything. And I walked in, and indeed there was a gym member there, and he just kind of looked at me and nodded, and it was so reassuring. I just nodded back and kind of gave him a half-handed sheepish wave, and I didn't speak at that meeting. I just sat and I listened, and the thing that kept coming up that really hit home for me was one day at a time. There were all these people going up and re-getting their white chip because they were starting over, and the whole mentality was just one day at a time. There were some things at AA meetings that I really liked and it really gelled in my brain. There were some things that I necessarily didn't gel with. So I went to 2 meetings total, and they were within the same week, and I absorbed it. And they were always like, keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. For me, that wasn't my thing. I didn't keep going back to meetings. I absorbed that one important thing. And for me, that